get started. Welcome to the Operation Committee, August 20th, 2019. We want to get started right away and start off this morning with the comprehensive maintenance plan.
I'm sure did. Again, my name is Monique Remo. I'm the Assistant Director of Building Maintenance and Inspections, and I'll be presenting on our annual comprehensive maintenance plan. And the overview is that we'll go through the purpose of the CMP, our organizational structure, the unique conditions that we're facing, our budget, some of our accomplishments, and then how we plan to raise our maintenance service levels. And so the purpose of our CMP is it's a strategic overview of our maintenance program. It addresses some requirements that have been established in our MOU between city schools and our partners, and it highlights our continuing improvements and the initiatives that we've put in place across operations. And so facilities maintenance and operations has been structured into 3 different divisions under the director, Blaine Lipsky. And the first is the Assistant Director of Maintenance, which is myself. The focuses that we look at, that I look at, are general maintenance. We have small-scale projects and exterior grounds, and this is just a small list of some of the things we focus on. I have 109 FTEs that sit under me, full-time employees. We also have the Engineering and Mechanical Services Department with 47 FTEs, and Jeff Wilson is the Assistant Director. His primary focuses are with our heating ventilation systems, and he focuses on automation, mechanical PMs, as well as the service and repair of our HVAC systems. And one of the new divisions that sits under our director is the Assistant Director of Environmental Compliance and Inspections. That person has absorbed most of the functions of health and safety with 27 FTEs. They'll oversee the custodial support services that we provide to school principals in their daily management of custodians, and as well as pest management. It's hard to watch, but she's like,
move that forward. She's here.
So we're moving on to slide 8.
Oh,
Thanks.
That's what I'm trying to read.
So it looks as though some of the features are
I don't know what that
on
looks like.
the laptops, but on the main presentation, some of the slides aren't showing up here. So I'll let you know what slide that we're on. So this just goes through some of the supports and services that facilities maintenance and operations provides. Again, this is slide 8. And this is something that we've provided to schools so that they can understand the services that we give to them. But as a complement to this, we've also provided them a document that says, here are your roles and responsibilities as a school for the health of your own building. So on slide 9 and 10, those go through the unique conditions that affect our buildings or affect maintenance. And some of those are our emergency repairs, which are our unforeseen breakdowns. We have air conditioning issues, which everyone is well aware of. We have a lot of vandalism. This usually happens after hours or on the weekends or just when the building is unoccupied. And we've also had breaking and entry, fire repairs, increased wear and tear. I mean, as our buildings age, that causes us to have more maintenance concerns and more resources that we have to put towards those buildings. We have several special events that we host in our buildings, whether for the community, for faith-based organizations, and we have aging buildings as well. So moving on to slide 11, I'm going through our accomplishments. And so one of the accomplishments for this school year, we're now on slide 12. One of our accomplishments for the school year is that
I can't even see that.
Across the district. And this was to improve accountability, not only on the maintenance side, but as well as on the school side.
12.
So nationally, schools are responsible for submitting their own
12.
work order requests, and they generally submit about 90% of their work requests. As in the past,
Can't even see.
submitting the majority of the work orders, which is why it was significant for us to roll out school due to our schools.
I can't even see it.
Are you guys struggling to follow?
I can hardly see it.
See this? It's just this, not the rest of it. She's
Okay.
just talking.
Okay. No, I was trying to read the rest
Right,
too.
it goes forward.
Okay.
She's just highlighting one part.
Okay. I still wanted to read to her. Okay.
The next slide, next accomplishment is that we launched our custodial
13.
cleanliness assessment.
Mhm.
And this
Okay,
was
I got it.
significant
Yeah.
because we had discovered that there was a gap with schools managing their custodial staff. And so we looked at how we can provide a service to them that helped assess the level of service that their custodians were giving to them, and then give the schools ways to guide their custodians in their day-to-day tasks. One of our third accomplishment was that we implemented a data-driven component to our employee evaluations. And this was significant for us because in the past, we would just say, if they showed up to work, great, they got meet standards. If they worked well with their teamwork, with their teammates, they got meet standards. So data-driven component for our employee evaluations. This was important because it allowed us to give our employees something to see in terms of progress, in terms of how we're evaluating them. And in the past, we've gotten a lot of complaints from the unions because our folks claimed or felt as though we were biased in our opinions. So what we did is we attached their evaluations to data that allows us to say, this is why we came to this decision in terms of if you're highly effective or not.
Mhm.
And we didn't get any union complaints this year.
Okay.
It was the first year we hadn't gotten complaints. So our next accomplishment is that we were able to reduce our engineering ratio to the number of buildings that they're assigned. We were at 1 to 18, and we were able to go down to 1 to 4 by pulling on our contractors and giving them a body of schools to maintain, as well as our engineers, and this improved our responsiveness to our heating and cooling needs. And so this was felt on the ground starting last summer, where we were able to immediately respond to requests in terms of it being too hot in their building, and again, it was felt this winter when they were saying that the buildings were too cold. And then one of the other things that we wanted to highlight is that we implemented a district-wide building monitoring system that enables mechanical service staff to see into buildings. So we placed temperature sensors in key positions throughout the buildings that allows them to remotely, from home, from the office, to look into the school to see what the current building temperatures are. And it also gives us critical alerts to let us know well in advance before students and staff arrive that there's an issue in the building.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is this no, I'm on mine. I guess you can hear me on mine. Oh, see, it's a difference. Is this the initiative that we talked about a year ago about putting these monitors in? So this is new. It just started because we made a big deal about putting monitors in order to monitor the temperature.
So the monitors were in January.
Oh, okay. So we did what we said we were going to do. So I'm glad in a timely manner. I'm really impressed with that. Okay, and also real quick, and I think I'm going back to some of the things you already talked about. There's a lot of work being done, and we talked about, I think I talked about in a year or so ago in reference to the principal or the leadership at the school can go into the system and use technology to make requests and make recommendations with a timeline to show when this request went into action. For example, if the principal is saying that the air condition or whatever needs repairing or whatever, we have a time that person did that. We can track all the way through and when it gets to the work actually being done, because it was an issue in reference to did they report it or did they not report it, and where we were in that line of getting things done. So all of that's done, right? Okay.
And so when Monique talked about 90% of schools, that's 90% of schools that are using the system.
Right.
School administrators that are using the system in order to input their work orders, and then they're being tracked by the team.
Good, thank you.
So the next thing we'll go through is some items in terms of
Just to ask a question. We've seen over the years tremendous improvement in efforts to do customer service, which is great because that has an effect on the experience of our teachers and students, which has the effect of retaining enrollment and adding enrollment. So I think all of that is really important, you know, is as important in many respects as academic curriculum, so that's terrific. I do have a question though about how do you know that you're achieving the results that you just presented? So I think last year I asked whether or not you survey your principals and ask them, you presented these results, there's data, but if they were here today, would they say, yeah, everything they presented is exactly the way we feel? Or would they say, you know what, they presented the data, but we still have issues, and here are our issues? So how can you get that from the principals and factor that into your work?
So there are two things we did. So at the beginning of this school year, we rolled out a area facility manager. So our AFMs, they're responsible for a cluster of schools, and so we asked their principals the feedback in terms of responsiveness, how are they communicating, how's the service, and we probably got about 40% of responses back from the principals, and the majority of them said that they were satisfied with the service they were receiving. In terms of the actual feedback, a lot of them were still concerned about communication, just knowing when things were happening. And so there were a lot of things that we implemented just from that. Like prior to when we come in and we do the scheduled maintenance in their building, we make sure we push out communication 2 weeks in advance, letting them know, hey, this is coming up, get ready, this is what we need you to do. So we put a lot of things in place since then. And what we'll get to later on in the presentation is we actually did an honest evaluation of ourselves against the national standard maintenance service levels, and they say based upon these different components and competencies, this is what you should be doing in these areas, and I'll discuss that because it's actually guiding how we go. One of those components is customer service.
That's great. I would just again ask you to consider doing some kind of survey instrument with the principals of the 180 schools or buildings, whatever that you're responsible for, so you can get sort of honest, anonymous feedback that can help with your assessment of what you're doing.
One of the other things that we'll be rolling out is the random survey that goes out. So right now, work order is completed. The principal gets a notification for every completed work order. And actually, to our surprise, many of them, when the work is actually not completed, they're being responsive and saying, I see this was marked off, but it wasn't done. So what we're going to add to that is the auto-generated survey that after so many work orders, we'll push out a survey to the principal asking them about satisfaction of the work that was received.
Okay. You said you did a self-evaluation. I highly recommend that you might at some point, and I know it would require funding to do an outside evaluation. It really, so we can see the difference between the two. I don't know, put it on recommendation. Okay, thank you.
So the next item we're going through is our budget. So this year we're funded at almost $30 million, and that's with the $3 million additional dollars that the board gives us. And according to national standards, they say that the maintenance budget should be 3% of the current replacement value of the district in order to properly maintain your buildings. So essentially, again, according to national standards, we should have a $150 million budget. I'm on slide 17. But in order to get that, we have to increase our budget by $120 million. And so what we've done is we're going through an FCA, a facility condition assessment, where we have E&G and School Dude. School Dude is our work order system, our partner, where they're assessing the conditions of our buildings, our existing building systems. And this is a 4-year period, and right now we're in year 4 of getting that assessment completed. But just based upon the first 3 years of the schools, they're saying that our immediate need right now is $207 million. So if you look at our budget of $30 million and the immediate need, that far outweighs what we are able to do inside of our buildings. But one of the things that the district has done is they provided that additional $3 million a year to help fill that gap. And so we, as operations, we're trying to be very strategic in how we use that $3 million, which goes towards hiring more folks, and also increasing our contractor support in key areas. Any questions?
How does this compare to the Chief of Staff, Allison Perkins Cohen, has quoted a study that was done that referred to some big number of facility issues. I don't remember what it was. Like, she uses it often to compare what we're getting versus the amount that we need. And so I don't know if you know what that study is, but how does that compare to the work you're doing now? And do you have a consultant who's doing this 4-year assessment?
Yes.
And what are they assessing? What are they assessing again?
So they're assessing the critical building systems inside of the buildings and all of the systemics of the building as well, such as windows and doors. And so the major difference, and Dr. Washington will probably speak to it as well, the major difference between what she's quoting, which is from the Jacobs report, and our facility condition assessment is that this FCA, it's looking at our existing conditions of the building components. It doesn't have an educational adequacy component, but that wasn't the purpose of this assessment. We're trying to understand what are our immediate maintenance or deferred needs just in terms of what is existing in the building, what it would take to bring those up to par without replacing the entire building.
So it's a similar report. This is basically the update. So the Jacobs study was done 2011, 2012, and it was done specifically so that we can have a justification to go after 21st century funds. And so that's why there was an educational component to it. The educational component was more about technology, what schools needed in order to be 21st century schools. And so we are doing another update to it. It's a 4-phase update where we're doing about 35 schools a year. And like as Monique was saying, is that it's based off of the components of the building. So it's a very similar report. The number that was reported in 2011, 2012 was a $3 billion backlog.
Right.
And so we have consultants that are doing that report again, but again, it's not including that educational adequacy component to it.
Mm-hmm. And so after so you've completed 3 years, and what was the number associated with that? That would be roughly 115 schools completed.
About 120, yeah.
Okay.
120.
And the number was what? You reported a number, 200 and something?
Our immediate replacement need, what we need replaced now, those are components that are beyond the life cycle, is $207 billion.
And that includes what? HVAC, boilers, windows?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And the reason that that's relatively small, which is relatively large to the $30 million we get every year, to the $3 billion is what? What's the?
Well, we have to complete the full assessment, and then also you got to remember that the $3 billion also included an educational adequacy component too. So it's bringing our schools up. So if there was a facility that did not have HVAC, then it was saying that that facility needs HVAC in order to be a 21st century learning
Right,
environment.
gotcha.
Whereas in this report, it's basically saying of all of the building assets that's in the building, what's necessary to bring them up to standards, which is basically where their life cycles are.
Right, okay. Thank you.
And so this slide goes through slide 19, it goes through our current and planned staffing models. So we know that there's not a lot that we can do about our budget, but we know that we can be wise with how we deploy our resources, especially when it comes to staffing. And so right now, our current FTE is 1 tradesman to every 131,000 square feet. And this is important because when we look at the national standard, they say based upon the size of your district, you should have so many people per square feet in order to properly maintain your building. So right now, our current is 131 square feet, 31,000 square feet, but our goal by 2023 would be able to get to 94,000 square feet. They're saying if we can get to that, we should be able to adequately maintain our buildings.
But isn't it the national standard, I assume, assumes facilities that are far better than ours? It's like an inverse correlation, isn't it? So we have older buildings that require regular maintenance, where school districts that have newer buildings that have warranties and have equipment, they don't need the regular maintenance. So wouldn't it be that What we would require, seemed to me, would be above the national standard.
Well,
Because we're putting, mandates on equipment.
And so
No. I would assume that we're looking at urban communities that have similar schools that's very similar to what we have. Are they doing that? They're not taking a general look at all schools. They're just looking at schools that's like in Detroit or in Newark and different areas that are very similar to Baltimore City, I would assume.
So this one,
Right.
Association, like Physical Plant Association, they're looking at all K-12 institutions. Now, there is a point that we make
Okay.
inside of our CFP, and I put it here in the notes. This does not take into building age. It does not take into building system sophistication either. So once you add those things in, that would mean that we would need to make an adjustment to that. But we make sure we make note of that.
So he's correct.
Yes.
For once.
And so one of the things we've been doing with the additional funds that we've received is adding staff from year to year. And so we've been adding somewhere between 12 and 15 staff per year with the additional funds. And so in FY23, 2023 is when we anticipate that we will receive that last round of additional $3 million. But even with that, if we stop at year 2023, there will be a gap in our staff. We're going to come about 10 short of what we feel we would need if we're going based upon that national standard, again, not taking into building age or system sophistication. There will still be a gap in our staff. And so one of the things that we had looked at and tossed around, what are the different staffing scenarios, or how can we meet the need? And so slide 20 says that if we stick with continuing, if our budget remains steady, we continue to get the $3 million a year through 2023. But if we go an additional year in FY 2024 and we add just an additional $1 million, we can close that gap in the number of staff that we need to maintain the buildings.
Oh, God. I'm going to go back again because I just thought about something that you just said, Commissioner. When we talk about the average, you really have to separate that and not accept that, because you really have to look at their data, because it will have a direct effect on how we get money. If we look at the ratio between our tradesmen and for per school, because if you're looking at a national average and all of it is included, it's going to affect us severely. We have to break it down and dissect the schools that are similar to us, because if you don't do that, we'll end up with under budget. We'll end up with not enough money and funding to do the things we have to do when you compare all these other schools into that average. So I'm thinking really hard. As a researcher, you know that we got to look at it a little bit more deeper than that.
And the other layer that we have to also look at is most of our staff would be related to doing repairs. We also have to make sure we're doing capital replacements.
Mm-hmm.
So that's new construction too. So that new construction alleviates some of the significant amount of work of repairs that we would have to be doing in our buildings too. So I think that we have to look at it as a balance of how much staffing that we need, but also how many new constructions and system replacements that we should be doing, so that we can offset the amount of work orders that are coming in just to do repairs. But that is very true. It's kind of difficult. You have to disaggregate the information. I don't think that at that level of analysis that they disaggregate it by urban versus suburban and rural schools.
So slide 21, we go through how we spend our budget. So from left to right, where is the work being performed? So what we did differently this year is that we put all of our buildings into age brackets according to how the state would classify the age of our buildings. So we have schools that are 21 years old or less, that are, the next bracket would be between 21 and 40 years old, and then the third bracket would be greater than so this just lets you see that, as expected, the majority of our work will be performed in our older buildings because they have older systems and they're aging. And
How many schools is this, the base, 180 or something like that?
No, our base in terms of what we maintain is around 145 buildings that we actually maintain.
You're useful to put down the slide.
Okay.
I was getting ready to say, it's really important that when you say use these percentages and 10%, 25, and what is that, 65, I can't see here. It's really important for us to look at the numbers, because we don't know what that is, you know. And it's very helpful to put it down, squeeze it in there, some parentheses.
Do you know how that compares to the average?
So this one, we don't know how it compares, because we wrote this down just according to our bracket, so I'm not too sure how it compares. We should be able to get this information, because 21 of the 24 LEAs in Maryland use school dude. And what's big about school dude is that we're able to see the data that other LEAs are using so that we can compare ourselves. So we should be able to do the same breakout. The second one is who's performing the work. So, and we align right with other K-12 users, other large urban districts where 80% of our work is done in-house and 20% is done by contractual support services. So what was good about this, well, let me get to the third one, and then I'll explain the study that we found. The third one is how does this translate into dollars? So even though 80% of our work is done by in-house staff, 70% of our budget goes to supporting the work done by contractors, and only 30% of our budget goes toward in-house. And that's our salaries, that's our supplies, and other miscellaneous costs that might go inside of that. Now that's big because the majority of districts are actually opposite. So about 77% of their budget goes toward in-house folks, and the remainder of their budget goes to contractual. And in 2017, School Dude, they did an assessment of all of their K-12 users, and about 90% of the K-12 users responded, and the larger districts, the ones that we would be compared to, they're the ones that said that 77% of their budget goes to their in-house support, and the remainder goes towards their contractual support.
Have we determined why? Have we looked at why that occurs? I mean, have we evaluated why they're so different than us? Are we saving money using that process, or are we actually losing money? Have we looked at them?
So that's a good question. There are a couple of areas. So we started with mechanical services. Mechanical services, they were doing a lot of their work with contractual support. And what Jeff Wilson, that assistant director, did, he began to go through his work and see what can I take from contractors and bring in-house.
Right.
So I believe he was paying $1 million or just over that to have contractors come in and change our filters. Well, that's something that we could simply do in-house, and it would cost us much less. So what he ended up doing was adding 16 maintenance boiler workers that go throughout all of our schools, and they're the ones that are now changing the filters in our building. So we were able to transition that $1 million into supplies and salaries and pull that work in-house, and there was cost savings as well. So we just started the review of that. We started the conversations with contract maintenance, so that's one of the things that's under me. They have, all of their work is contractual, so one of the things is to start taking steps there, seeing what work is the contractor doing and what are we able to bring in-house.
It's definitely a challenge, not just for Baltimore City, but across the state, just because the cost of labor is significant, and most of the time government entities can't really compete in terms of salaries. And so for operations, a lot of our work is going to be significantly contractual. So an example, an HVAC tech is probably maybe well over $100,000. That's more than what some of our assistant directors are paying. So bringing that staff in-house, we just can't compete with the private sector. And so you will see that a lot of school systems across the country, even within the state of Maryland, what they're doing is that they're reducing their in-house team and going more so contractual. Even though we have a lot of specialized work for Baltimore City, we're seeing that if we, like Monique brought with the boiler maintenance workers, if we take some of the work that we of staff that we can compete with in the industry, so like the boiler maintenance workers who may be lower paid staff, not as specialized, we can bring some of that work in-house. But our larger specialized work, we're gonna definitely have to take it out just because we just can't afford the salaries.
And in the study that I mentioned, there was, and I have the link in the notes if you wanted to look at that study, that there was a shift that they noted that school systems were switching more to getting contractual support.
Okay.
This next slide goes through just where our repair costs are. And so these are our top 12 repair costs, and they encompass about 95% of our repair cost budget. So the 5 to the left, that's the majority of our budget, those 5 categories. HVAC, which takes up 44% of our repair costs, and then there's plumbing, lighting, risk management, and grounds. Risk management is huge because that deals with if we have busted pipes or ruptured pipes, but also there's a lot of vandalism that comes inside of that. So everyone knows about the chicken and fire, so that would have been part of risk management. One of the things that I wanted to flag here is windows, and so I made a note that 40% of our window repair costs are in buildings that are less than 21 years old, but that's a very small portion of the amount of window work out there. So our newer buildings are actually costing us much more to maintain in terms of windows. Whether it's vandalism or whatever's going on with those windows, they are costing us more to maintain. And so these next several slides, starting with slide 23, this is what I mentioned earlier in terms of raising our maintenance service levels. So we adopted the Association of Physical Plant Administrators maintenance service levels, and it just allows the organization to look at the different competencies and say, based upon how we're performing, this is the level of service that we're giving to our schools. And so they have several competencies, but there are some core ones that we're pulling out here, which are listed there on the screen. It's PM, our service efficiency. One of the things that was brought up was customer service or satisfaction, so we're focused on that. But they then speak to square footage, our budget, and then a facility condition assessment, which I'll briefly discuss. And so in 2017-18, we did a self-evaluation. We looked at the services that we provide in schools, and based upon the competencies, we evaluated ourselves. So we felt that we were in a crisis reactive mode, and that was whether it's because of the amount of people per square feet, our budget, or our response time. Response time is probably the biggest problem that we had. We just weren't getting to things fast enough, and that was tied to just our how well organized we were. And so last year we feel as though we made gains in school year 18-19, that we moved primarily to a managed care, slide 25, that we feel that we moved to a managed care service level to schools, but we remain in a crisis response mode in terms of budget. And so I just want to flag that because again, the national standard says that a maintenance team should have 3% of the current replacement value in order to maintain buildings. We will probably never get to $150 million a year. So we're always going to remain in a crisis response mode there. Any questions? And then this just the slide 26 speaks to where we're going or what we would like to achieve. So we would like to be at a comprehensive stewardship service level and as many of the competencies as possible. And again, we're going to continue to say that in some areas, we're just going to remain in a crisis response mode, and that's simply because of our budget. And what the next several slides go through is that regardless of our budget, there are still things that our maintenance team, that operations can do in order to raise our service levels. And so we feel as though if we focus on preventive maintenance, if we focus on our service delivery and response time, being efficient and customer satisfaction, that we can improve our service to schools. And this slide talks about what our target competencies are, and it just lists what we plan on focusing on inside of each of those. And then slide 28 just goes through, we want to raise maintenance service levels through strategy and compliance. And again, inside of each of these competencies, we talk about different strategies and compliance things that we would put in place. And then slide 29 is the final thing, which would be raising maintenance service levels through data-driven decisions. And again, inside of the competencies, we're saying what type of data-driven decisions that we would make so that we can move from reactive to a comprehensive maintenance level to all of our schools. Any questions?
Yes, can you go back to slide 17?
Yes, sir. Slide 17?
Yeah. So I think we have the strongest possible case to make that we're underfunded.
Yes.
But I also think that we should be clear and consistent about the numbers that we use and not sort of throw them out. So, for example, we have this Jacobs report with $3 billion. We have this new report that has 3 years done that has something like 270. And then the report, it shows here that our current replacement value is $5 billion as opposed to the $3 billion. And so they all might be real numbers, but we should explain what these numbers mean, because if we don't, then people are going to say we're just throwing numbers out there to make a case. So it would be, you get the point. Let's use the real numbers, let's cite them, let's be rigorous about the data, so when people question it, we can respond, all of us, including board members. Thanks.
All right, that's the conclusion of our presentation. Any other recommendations or feedback?
Just a great report, and you guys are playing, congratulations, you're going in the right direction. Appreciate the emphasis on customer service.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where's the agenda? I can't find it. Put the agenda up. My
Right here.
computer's frozen.
Operation School Readiness Plan.
I want to just announce it.
Okay, the next agenda item is Operation School Readiness Plan. This is always the fun one.
We're going to present the Operation School Readiness Plan for operations. Each year, the district also submits a school readiness plan for how the district will prepare.
Is that on? Are we on?
Thank you.
Maybe
Is it
move
on?
it. Okay, just move it a little closer. Thanks.
We're going to present the school readiness plan for operations. Each year, the district also does a school readiness plan and presents a presentation on how the district will prepare for school opening. However, this is a little bit of a deeper dive into how operations specifically prepares for school readiness. The bulk of our work for school readiness or operations falls into design and construction, facility maintenance and operations, and transportation. These departments do a large list of getting schools ready to prepare for opening. Starting with our facility design and construction team that comprise of our architects and engineers and our supervisors of school projects for construction. This team provides architectural design, and they also manage and provide additional oversight and support for construction projects that are going on in our buildings. This slide details the amount of projects that we have that are under construction this year, as well as the projects that are under design. It's important to note that a lot of our projects this year are HVAC and AC projects, which is in support of the governor's mandate on us providing air
We also provide support for relocating programs. This year we have the St. Sam Winchester Achievement Academy, which is a program that has to be completed, project has to be completed before it starts school. So the difference between these two projects is that the HVAC and AC projects, they can occur over an 18-month span of time. They will not be ready for when schools are opening, but it's important for the team to work with the schools to ensure that schools have minimal disruption for students, staff, and families, although they have construction still going on in their schools. Our facility maintenance and operation team who provides our in-house maintenance repairs through the use of our repair teams. They operate on a blitz schedule in which they go in and perform maintenance repairs.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up my computer. Is it okay right now? Yeah. Okay, when you say that there's a possibility that, going back to the other slide in reference to everything is not, there's a possibility that all the schools will not be ready, did you say that?
I just said that the HVAC and AC projects take longer. They're not
Right.
completed during, they're not going to be finished during the summer, so we work with schools to ensure that they're ready to receive students and staff and families in spite of the construction that's still going on in that building.
Well, I have a question also. For the schools that are not ready with the HVAC, with the air condition, do we have fans available for each classroom? For each of the classrooms what are we doing to prepare the schools so that we will have some coolness in the classroom?
Right, so those schools, most of those schools didn't have HVAC in the
Right.
beginning, and so they would follow the same policy of all of our other schools that don't have HVAC.
And what would that be?
And so the policy is basically when those particular classrooms, if a large number of classrooms, because we're using our automated sensors, our system where we are able to check the temperatures of the classrooms. And so when we see that most of our classrooms are above 85 degrees, then we do a consideration for early closure of our schools.
Oh, I know that part, but I'm saying that in preparation, because we know it's going to be hot, do we have fans for each classroom?
We don't. And so we don't provide the fans for each classroom because then what happens to the other schools that also don't have AC? We have about 50 schools across the district that can't have AC. And so that is the reason why we do the early closure. Because even though there are classrooms that have fans, the temperatures in those classrooms are still very hot. And so therefore, if the outside temperature and the inside temperatures meet the requirement for our heat policy, then that's what we do the consideration for early closure for all non-AC schools.
Okay.
And so for those schools that are under renovation for AC, a lot of times those projects can last up to sometime a year just because of the amount of work. We have about 3 schools that will come online that will have AC. And some of the other schools are in some stage of construction. Maybe it's the beginning, the middle part of construction. But construction is ongoing. One of the things that we do is that there are some schools that had window AC units. And so for those classrooms that had window AC units, if the construction is not complete, then we will provide those window AC units because they had them before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to put your division in context, for the last presentation we had an org chart, I guess that was called Facilities Maintenance and Operations. So your work, what's your division called?
What we're discussing today are both. So we have one department that is facility design and construction, and that's where you have all of your new construction in terms of your replacement of your systems, your HVAC systems, your roofs, some of those different things. The facility maintenance and operation teams, they do repairs. So repairs to systems. If there is a repair to HVAC system, it's not a full replacement of the system, it's just a repair to the system. So right now, this department that we're speaking on is the facility design and construction. This is new construction and replacement systems.
And who operates
So
this?
Cindy Smith is Director of Design and Construction.
Okay.
Going back to our facility maintenance and operations team, which I say provides the in-house maintenance repairs through the use of repair teams. They operate on a blitz schedule, and we'll just talk through the process of the blitz it's critical to note that schools should actively participate in our play cycle. They are of critical importance, and them inputting the work orders into the system prior to our team arriving is of critical importance. So what happens is the school inputs their work orders into our computerized management maintenance system, and then our area facility manager and our lead tech does a pre-blitz inspection with the school, identifying which work orders will be completed during the process. And then again, they go into the building after the repair team has went in, and they do a post-blitz inspection, and that speaks to just making sure that not only the work was completed, but that it was completed up par. Right now, we have an active participation rate of 87%. Of course, our goal is to get 100% of schools to actively participate in the entire process, which is the inputting of their work orders in school do, but also participating in the pre and post inspections.
How do you decide if schools are asking too much? Either too many things or they're asking for things that don't sort of fall within the blitz, but they're trying to get other things done?
So we do an assessment. What happens is that there is a walkthrough that happens within its inspection period. The schools input all of their work orders into the system. And again, yes, there's a significant number of work orders. There's some work orders that are put in the system that has nothing to do with the start of school in the summer and different things like that. There may be work orders that are very large projects that are put into the system. And so during this walkthrough, the lead repair tech is going to have communications with the school. We are going to say generally these are the things that are happening during summer readiness, and then that lead tech is going to go to the school over their scope and say these are the things that are feasible to get done during the summer, and these are the things that are not. This is the first time this year that we actually had principals sign off on the scope. So what we used to do previously is that a lead tech would come in, they would identify work to happen in the school for the summer, and then they would come in and do some of the work. But this time, because we have a significant response rate of principals participating in school do, we're able to review those scopes with them and then have principals sign off and say, yes, I'm okay with this amount of work that's happening during the summer. It sets expectations.
Our repair teams operate on a 10-week schedule, and as you can see right now, we're addressing schools of concern. We work hand in hand with the chief of schools team, including IWPs and school support managers, to help us identify those schools that will require a second blitz. The first week we did a lot of salvaging for the swinging and relocating schools, but it's also important to note that during that first week, we tried to prepare schools as much as possible by giving them as much information around our processes and procedures and what support that we would be providing for the summer, as well as what our expectations were of the school-based staff to receive our teams before going into the buildings. This is a list of all the items that the schools received as a part of our school readiness guide that I mentioned. Last year we had a lot of pipe condensation leaks, so we wanted to make sure that schools had a guide as to what to do in the event that these occurred again this year. It also set forth our list expectations, as I mentioned, with them actively participating into the school view and actively participating in the pre and post inspection. We also detail what our test management team will be doing, as well as how our area facility manager for custodians would also be supporting them in training this year. Our grounds team operates on a 10-week schedule as well. This team is smaller, so they're not working into repair regions, but they do abate during the summer, grass cutting as well as shrubbery based on geographical location. They're also addressing schools of concern right now and operating on overtime, in which they're trying to get the schools ready by working each Saturday and also working Monday, Wednesday, and Friday overtime. This year, we rolled out a pilot for custodial training under the direction of our manager, area facility manager for custodians. We try to support schools in giving them additional training in regards to general cleaning as well as in regards to stripping and waxing of floors. The schools were identified to participate in this training based on their inspection scores throughout the year. So if they received low inspection scores, it indicated to us that they were in need of some additional support and training. So we completed our general cleaning training as well as our training on stripping and waxing floors, and at this time we're just doing post follow-up and training with those schools that need additional follow-up. Our pest control team also moved their timeline up this year, and beginning as early as June, we started with the inspections of our lead treatments, and as well
So for the
Could you
transportation,
give us your name?
yes, I'm sorry. My name is Robert Marshall. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of People Transportation. In regards to the school readiness for transportation, our goal over the summer is to ensure that all eligible students approve of transportation receive safe and on-time transportation for SY 1920. Our transportation routers create bus and cab assignments for students approved in STS, which is our student transportation system. These bus and cab assignments have been put into our routing system, which is EduLog, and they assign students to buses and cabs for that school year. And of course, changes happen throughout the school year. Students who have transportation approved by August 9th are guaranteed transportation on day one of the school. And those who come in after that deadline will be routed based on approved date.
I don't understand something. If everything is completed, all the rules and regulations that they have to fulfill by the 9th, they're good for transportation.
Yes.
But then I'm sure there's going to be a ton of kids who are not approved. So what happens, explain again what happens
So
to
what
those
happens
kids?
to the students who come in after that date, we route as many of them as possible for the first day of school, but historically, hundreds of kids come in literally that Thursday and Friday before school starts, and we just don't have the capacity to route all of those students and have an effective first day. So we used to route up until the weekend before start of school.
Right.
And what we've noticed with that is that sending a transportation contractor 100 changes for Monday over the weekend, and they don't see it until Monday morning, really causes a lot of havoc, and our call center is literally ringing off the hook that Monday.
It would seem to me that August 9th is almost a month before school started. It seems like it would be kind of chaotic. Would be a lot of kids that would have problems with transportation.
Right.
It
So
seems like it would be kind of chaotic for you guys. How do you resolve all of those kids that will be without transportation?
we take it one day at a time. But so what we do is we route as many students as possible without majorly disrupting the routes that we already created, because a lot of times what used to happen was we would communicate routes to parents early so they can prepare, and then they make preparations, and then we add 1,000 more kids to the mix, and then their routes completely change. So they may have set up a babysitter for 7 a.m. and then they realize the route might change to 7:45, or the pickup time might change to 7 a.m. So they have to really adjust on the fly. So we route as many students as possible without majorly disrupting what's already been routed. It's an ongoing battle.
It sounds like a big problem that's going to occur, but it happens every year.
Yes, ma'am. Now, and another reason why we try to get these parent communications out early is for data quality. A lot of times we have issues with the accuracy of addresses. Sometimes it's the accuracy, and sometimes it's simply the format of the address. So once we send the letters out, the ones who are incorrect come back, or parents may receive it and say, my pickup or drop-off address is incorrect, and we make that change into the system. But if we were to wait until about, the week or a few days before school started to communicate these letters to parents, it's almost too late to make those changes before we start school. A part of the communication effort to increase the STS verifications consists of outreach to ILEDs, in-house calls to school users, providing transportation coordinator support, closely monitoring and reporting the submission rate, as well as using LAUs to leverage the city schools to communicate information and deadlines. So at the bottom, this graph is a comparison from the end of July this year to last year, and we had over 200 more STS verifications in the system. So to go back to your point of the early deadline, we are also pushing schools to approve their students earlier so we can send those letters out to families.
Do you have to hire people temporary to do this job? It sounds like you would need to bring, even if you have to bring in parents who might want to make extra money, I don't know, but who would come in just for that 1 month period
Yes.
or 6 weeks? Because this sounds, of all the wonderful things that you're doing, this sounds like something that's out of control for you or your department. It sounds like it can be chaotic. When you think of August the 9th is the deadline to get all this information in, and we know, like what you just said, letters don't get to the proper location. Some people say they never got it, that this and that, and just people are moving all over the place.
Right.
It seems like a large amount of kids will be standing somewhere without transportation and a high incident of kids missing from the classrooms. So right now, since we know this, and it is late, we might consider, and have you already done this?
Yes, it's
Hire
something that-
additional people?
Something that we do every year is we hire a temporary staff
Mhm.
to staff the call center, and like this staff is like their main duty are to communicate with parents as well as answer parents' calls, because the one thing we don't want to do is have somebody call and be on hold for 20 to 30 minutes
Exactly.
until they can speak to an actual human. So we do staff the call center in advance every year to anticipate those heavy calls and communications from parents and schools.
So I imagine the first day of school is chaotic, with people saying, I can't get my child to school, there's no bus, or this and then the other, so.
Yes. So it is chaotic, but a lot of times when somebody's calling saying that nobody communicated with me with my child's.
Well, they're gonna say that anyway, some people
Right.
will.
So we do our investigation to see what happened with their child's transportation, and a lot of times it'll be Monday, September 3rd, when we get the phone call saying that nobody ever communicated. Then we look in the system and see that the child's transportation request was entered like 2 business days ago. So
Okay.
a lot of those calls are due to that.
Okay, thank you.
So the SDS completion status as of August 6th, the total student request entered was almost 3,000. It was 2,959. The number of students verified by schools was 2,871, which is less than 100 of the students that were entered. And this is significant, and I want to put emphasis on this because in the past, out of that 2,900 number, we may have 2,000 kids verified. So this is like almost 1,000 students who had their stuff in on time that hasn't been verified. So, salute to the schools for being more diligent on getting those transportation.
Do you do robocalls? Is that what it's called?
So transportation does not, but city schools does. So
Okay.
there are robocalls that go out to families
Okay.
on a case-by-case basis. So this is just a high level of the school readiness timeline. As far as bus inspections, those are going on right now. This is the last week. It started last Monday. Routing assignment started at the end of July, and this is continuous because routes change throughout the year. Sometimes we get almost 100 changes in one day to process. Parent letters started going out in early August, and the last big wave will go out this Friday. And parent letters are actually continuous as well, so every time a student's route changes, we have to send a parent a new letter. So if, let's say there's 5 students on the route and then one more additional student was added towards the end, that's going to change the pickup time for the first 4 students, a little bit earlier to accommodate the last student that was added. Our training for bus drivers and aides, the pre-service training started early August, and in-service training actually started today. In-service training is the training for our drivers who are already in the system. Pre-service are for new drivers who has either never drove for the system or their last time driving was past the requirement date to attend in-service. As far as customer service, we started calling parents with bus info already, but those calls will continue as students are routed and as changes happen. And transportation coordinators who are at the school They are trained between August and November, so 2 or 3 days every month that we have transportation coordinator training. For contractor readiness, we have a total of 427 buses, and the driver and aides number will be solidified after this current in-service training is over. But at a high level, we have about close to 400 drivers and aides each to do city school work. Swing space has increased this year. We are up to 11 schools, and last year we utilized about 30 buses for swing space, and this year we had to add an additional 8, and that number would have been higher, but we were able to adjust the dwell times of some of the swing space schools, so we could use one bus to serve 2 or 3 schools. And the MTA fare program is similar to what it was last year. The one car has a drive duration of 120 minutes, and they have 4 trips a day. They can ride as early as 5 a.m. and their first stop can be as late as 8 p.m. And the prepaid tickets are like green one-use tickets that's covered by city schools, and a lot of these tickets are used for like special events like athletics or maybe a school field trip where you might get back later than what the buses run. So we'll give them this prepaid ticket so they can get them. And the one car train for school staff, the first one is actually this morning. It's going on right now at PDC, and there will be a second day tomorrow. And school users have been signing up for them online about the last month or so. And this is where, even if they use the system to assign one cars to their kids, this is where they can come back to like get refreshed, or if a school has brand new staff, they'll send them here. This is their first time seeing this. And for one card photos, we set a photo deadline for September 20th. So when students come back to school in September, the schools will give them S-passes, which is good for the month of September, but throughout the entire month of September, the schools will set up a camera to take pictures of their students to put on the one cards, and those one cards will be printed and distributed on September 31st. Question?
Is that the last slide?
Yes, sir.
If you could just go to the appendix, the one page, I guess it's page 24. So the number of, I'm sure there's an easy answer to this question. The number of buildings listed here is, over 400, or if I'm getting this right. And I thought we had 108 schools. What is this list?
So it's the building number.
Well, oh, I see. So it's,
The building number that covers over multiple pages, so the specific.
right, but the building numbers are close to being.
Right, so they just ordered it, but those aren't building numbers.
How many are on this list?
Associated buildings. There should be, what, one?
Emerson is 400 or something, I think.
That's not just the building.
Right,
numbers. I know
but
Emerson
it just
is
looks like
one
more
building
than-
number 400 or something.
Yeah, that's like Emerson.
So this would be roughly 180
No, it would be right closer to 150, because we still have an our portfolio.
because that excludes charter.
If the charter school is in a building within our
Right.
facility, it's included.
Okay. All right, and then what's the other question I had? I can't remember.
Okay. Okay, is that it, Commissioner?
I'm trying to remember the question.
How long?
Just talk amongst yourselves.
Take your time.
What is it?
I was practicing.
Anyway, can't remember. Thanks.
You can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're remembering the question, you can certainly just email them, our contact information is there, we'll probably should answer it to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That went very well. we got a good update of what's going on, so we won't be surprised. In my mind, I'm actually concerned about the parents of people who have not responded to the routes and the bus locations. You know, so I hope that goes well. Thank you so much. And next,
No, it was. You can. Sorry, Amanda.
yes, you may.
Real quickly. So a couple years ago, we got the presentation on the equity lens that we were using to make decisions about how we allocate capital resources and other resources. So one of the appendix shows a map of where the various AC projects are and other projects. So does your team go through that process of sort of determining where the dollars are spent and looking at the map that showed neighborhoods that were?
So for the AC, we are covering all schools.
Mhm.
So right now, our plan is basically that all schools will have AC. And that's why it's the 5-year plan. The 5-year plan is to cover for all of our schools within our portfolio.
But for the other construction projects, are you applying the equity?
We are, and so like the CIP is coming, I think sometime in October, and they'll talk through how we're prioritizing for the other capital projects.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome to procurement.
Yes.
Not as long as the other one we just finished last time. But anyway, you want to start and give your name?
Yes, thank you. I'm Peter Rushkin, filling in for Joe. First item is Desolute Financial Consultant. CEO requests the board's approval to enter into an extension of the interim CFO's contract to the end of the year. $130 an hour, roughly $135K. Any questions? All right, the second item, Maryland Clean Energy Center, MCEC, Chief of Staff requests approval to provide a variety of services associated with an energy services agreement. Contract amount is $50K, and the exact cost will be contingent upon the type of upgrades that are suggested by the consultant. The term is August 28th through the 28th, 2024. Any questions?
You said the exact, repeat that?
The exact cost will be
Yeah.
contingent on the upgrades I suggest.
So when will we get that?
That is an excellent question. We can find out.
Hi, and Claire, if you want to come up, you can. So, hi, my name is Cleo Hirsch. I'm here on behalf of the Chief of Staff, and my colleague Claire is here, who's been a temporary contractor who is an expert in doing these types of energy-saving projects in our schools. So the goal of this sort of consultative phase in which we're actually paying Maryland Clean Energy Center is for them to steward us through the process of selecting an ESCO who will perform an audit. And once we get those audit results back, the goal is to get a sense of what we will do for a subset of 15 schools to do like a pilot where we install these energy saving technology. And so at that point, we will have a much more precise estimate, but we'll be paying them hourly for their services to get us to that point.
So why is it here right now? Because it's not the,
Yes, so it's a good question because it's also under $50,000, which is the threshold. So the reason that it's here and is because we really want to make sure that you all on the board are along for the ride because this is stage one of a multi-stage process that we hope will culminate in 80 to 85 schools getting these energy-saving technologies installed. And then the district will use the money that we save from like changing the lighting and the controls in all of our school building to actually be able to purchase new HVAC systems for say 3 to 4 schools. That's the goal.
you know, we're always on board for repairs and, you know.
Yes.
But it's uncomfortable to not know the exact budget. So to say that we would be on board for approving
So,
something.
no, we're not pre-permitting you to approve anything. This is more of an educative exercise
Okay,
in which we want you to know that right now we're paying them an hourly rate
Okay.
to sort of be our guides because
Good.
they're real experts in this. And then every stage that we need board approval will come to you
okay.
and we'll, go through the process that needs to happen. We don't even know which ESCO we would choose because we have to go through a thorough procurement
Right.
process. to pick the ESCO. We don't know what the results of the audit will say. So you are not pre-committing to anything. This is just so you know every step that we are taking.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you
So
very much.
is
Sure.
MCEC a nonprofit?
It is a quasi-public, quasi-private entity that was designed by the governor back in 2008. And its full intention, the purpose of the entity is to try to help municipalities with energy improvements.
Yeah, I'm fine with the procurement, but I think, did we talk on the phone about this?
Yeah.
A while ago, and I don't remember a resolution. I think there were a lot of good questions raised about ESCOs using private contractors and the interest rate that they receive and the issue that we had with the fact that they were claiming these were maintenance issues that caused increases in energy versus other things. So, I mean, and our experience with ESCOs was not great because we didn't do all the due diligence that you're doing now. But it would be useful to have an interim step between that conference call and the direction in which we're going. So
Sure.
even if it's just written down, what is the plan? I guess this is part of it.
Yeah.
And how did we get there? How did we arrive at this path,
Sure.
which is to do potentially 85 escrows?
Yeah. So to be clear, and we can certainly send you that written update, this is a very interim step
Right.
in finalizing a plan. So there's no plan set in stone yet, but the general direction that we are hoping to take under the guidance of Dr. Washington and Claire is that we would do a pilot of 15 schools where we do reasonably minimal upgrades to lighting and controls.
Right.
And we track the type of energy savings we see from that pilot
Right.
before we would launch into anything.
Right.
But as I said, if that is successful and the board is interested in continuing, it could result in a bigger project, which is why, even though this is under the procurement threshold, we wanted to come speak with you about it. And I think certainly we can follow up with sort of a written version
great.
of that plan.
It's terrific. And
Yeah,
I was just always curious about an alternative source of financing
yeah,
that might be available
yeah.
for the ESCO that's less private sector oriented and profit oriented.
Yeah.
Just for clarity,
Yeah.
just for clarity, would this show up at the open board approval, this right here?
It would probably be on what they call consent.
Because the board knows right here.
We can pull it out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item 3, Chief of Schools requests the board's approval of the contract with Baltimore Curriculum Project to provide climate and culture support service to Pimlico Elementary Middle for the 1920 school year. Total estimated contracts a little under $253K. Any questions?
No?
Item 4, board certified applied behavior analyst is being requested by the Director of Special Education. Contract with multiple vendors for students with documented clinical needs for assessments and/or services. The estimated contract amount is $300K, and the contract runs from August 28th through August 27th, 22. Any questions? Item 5, Aon Consulting. The CFO requests the board's approval to extend the current requirement contact with Aon Consulting due to a number of reasons. The current contract amount is almost $2.2 million. This will require an increase of about $500K to almost $2.7 million. And the contract goes through February 20. Any questions? Item 6, the CFO requests the board's approval of a competitively solicited requirements contract with Brightly, Polo, and Numerical Consulting to provide business management services to schools. The estimated annual contract amount is $400K. The contract term is from August 19 to August 22 with 1 2-year renewal option. Any questions? Item 7, SAS. CFO requests the board approval to contract with SAS for annual maintenance and support services.
Patreon.
Cost of almost $37K. additional programming services at another $20K. The term is October 28th, 19 through October 27th, 20. Any questions?
No, go ahead.
Item 8, good, the COO requests approval of a competitively bid compliance contract to provide refuse collection with good companies in Republic Services Baltimore. The estimated annual amount is $1.2 million, and that runs from October 19 through September 30, 22. Any questions?
Just one second. Just one second, sorry.
Sure.
So we did an RFP and selected two contractors?
Correct.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
Item 9. Thanks, Wayne. Access 411, this is going to be procured through piggyback through the District of Columbia. To provide its attendance and security system for over $600K, and the term is from August 19th through September 19th.
Can you talk about why the scope doesn't allow for subcontracting opportunities for MWB participation?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
I think, again, Christian, this comes up, at least for me, every time we do procurement. And I've asked for some information about how these decisions are made. And I don't know the process of getting it, but short of that, maybe we should have someone here from that office. Because if we're doing procurement, and MWB is part of that, and so many of them are waived, I'm going to continue to have questions about that. So somebody should be able to answer that question.
I can give you some more context on MWB presentation.
Okay, good.
Correct, we talked about that, you asked the question before. I don't know if we have the
Well,
result.
sounds like
I got
something in the works.
Yeah.
Great.
When you say something that worked, didn't we say that before?
Well, we had the initial request and then we worked on it, but I do have an update for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the budget meeting, operation meeting. The next meeting will be September 17th, and it will be in our main boardroom downstairs. And look at for capital improvement plan and school funding. Okay, thank you so much, and have a great rest of that's over, a few weeks.
One of us is going to Rehoboth, it's not me.
The minute I walk in. Thank you so much.